Daniela, Bonita, Bermúdez, Carolina, Puerto Rico, Real de...
News! To my people, I've never used banned substance to enhance my performance. I've never done it. I've always been very respectful for the anti-doping rules ever since I was an amateur Olympian and I was a professional. Ever since I became a world champion in 2016, I've been tested for more than 30 times. I insisted on writing on the VADA testing myself for the Robson Conceição fight and put that under my contract. I would like to thank my manager, Frank Espinosa, my trainer, Eddie Reynoso, and all my team and everybody who's been with me through these tough times. I would also like to thank the Pascual-Yaqui Boxing Commission for letting this fight proceed and hearing my case. I will happily comply with all the situations set forth by the Boxing Commission Council, collaborate with all the program tests and other activities required from me. I hope to see you guys September 10th on my first title defense back in Tucson, Arizona. I wish you all well.
Oscar Valdez's Pad Fiasco is still dominating headlines, even after he's been cleared of any wrongdoing, per tweet from Dan Raphael. A strongly worded statement from the Association of Boxing Commissions in support of the Pascual-Yaqui Tribe Athletic Commission approving the Oscar Valdez fight being allowed to proceed. ABC calls it like it sees it and uses logic and fact, not emotion. Read it. President of the ABC board, Mike Mazzulli, has announced that the Association of Boxing Commissions concurs with the findings of the Pascual-Yaqui Tribal Athletic Commission and its executive director, Ernie Gallardo, in allowing the WBC world champion Oscar Valdez to fight on September 10th, 2021. WADA-banned substances are broken down into two categories. The first category, out of competition, are substances that are banned in both in and out of competition. For example, steroids, steroid derivatives, and masking agents which hinder detection of banned substances. The second category, in competition, are substances which are only banned in competition. The term competition, the period commencing at 11:59 p.m. on the day before a competition in which the athlete is scheduled to participate through the end of such competition and sample collection process related to such competition. The drug in question regarding Oscar Valdez, phentermine, is not a prohibited substance unless there is a positive test taken during the period of the in-competition testing. Mr. Valdez tested positive for that drug on August 13th, 2021, which is over 1 month prior to the fight on September 10th, 2021. He tested negative on subsequent tests. Again, the ABC supports the ruling by the Pascual-Yaqui Tribal Athletic Department in allowing Oscar Valdez to fight. And with that, die any hopes of Mike Mazzulli and the ABC Commission
being able to sort this out,
applying pressure on the WBC as an alphabet organization to perhaps implement harsher punishments on those who test positive for banned substances.
Yeah, they're not going to do that.
They're actually in agreement with the Pascual-Yaqui tribe's ruling, thus...
Move it out, nothing to see here.
It all wraps itself up a little bit too neatly now, doesn't it? Mike Coppinger tweeted, "The amount of goalpost moving remains astounding. WBC claims phentermine isn't a PED. Commission claims the same. Why did the commission have a meeting on Wednesday with the WBC? Why was the B sample tested? Why is the WBC putting Oscar Valdez on some nonsense probation?" You know, if Oscar would have tested positive for this agent during the in-competition period, perhaps we'd be having a very different conversation. But I told you guys when this news broke, the fact that this is a banned substance in competition as opposed to out of competition, that creates a gray area to where Oscar might walk away from this with a slap on the wrist. And it seems that he has. Mike Coppinger added, "Oscar Valdez says he insisted on inserting VADA testing for a September 10th fight and had it placed in the bout agreement. Then why is VADA's banned substance list not being adhered to? Why have the VADA testing if you don't want the consequences if there's an adverse finding?"
It's a valid question.
The disconnect here is that the Pasquayaki tribe is well within their rights to allow this contest to go on because they observe the WADA
code
and WADA's protocols for this particular substance. And based on WADA's protocols for the substance, Oscar Valdez wasn't in competition. He was out of competition, whereas this drug is only banned in competition. So the Pasquayaki Athletic Commission allowing this contest to go on isn't where your focus should be. Your focus really should be on the WBC.
because that's where the obvious favoritism is.
The Pasquayaki Tribal Athletic Commission is only adhering to the WADA protocols, and based on those WADA protocols, Oscar didn't cheat. But as far as the WBC's clean boxing program,
It's a different story.
VADA themselves, by way of their Twitter account, released this statement, and it reads, "It's an embarrassment and degrading to fighters how little PED testing is done by U.S. commissions. VADA testing has always been fighter-driven by those who want a clean sport. Hopefully commissions wake up. National government oversight is sorely needed."
Can we just call this what it is?
This is a slap in the face to VADA. Don't get me wrong. The Pasquayaki Athletic Commission,
They're actually well within their rights to let the contest go on.
they are. But the WBC allowing Oscar to hang on to that world title, that is something else entirely, because the WBC works in tandem with VADA, not WADA.
And VADA just told you this guy tested positive for a banned substance.
And when last I checked, the WBC's clean boxing program, upon its
And
inception,
here's to VADA's protocols, doesn't it?
not necessarily WADA's. The CBP is not a joint effort between the WBC and WADA to clean up the sport. It's a joint effort between the WBC and VADA. And based on VADA's findings, this guy's got a banned substance in his system. The protocols for VADA and WADA might differ.
There might be subtle differences and nuances.
There may be some slight discrepancies between the two, but there's no discrepancy. There's no confusion who it is the WBC works with when it comes to their clean boxing program. There's no confusion there. They run that program with VADA. So by all rights, even if the Pasquayaki tribe allows the contest to go on,
The WBC is still supposed to do their job.
and listen, I'm not expecting them to. I never was. What I expect is exactly what we're getting. Exactly what we're looking at. I expect the WBC to give certain fighters special consideration. The consideration they're giving Oscar, because by all rights, based on their protocols and their own bylaws,
Oscar should have been stripped.
even if the Pasquayaki Tribal Athletic Commission allowed the contest to go on, Oscar still should have been stripped.
Oscar should have been stripped.
Go on and have your fight with Conceição, but the WBC won't sanction it. In an ideal world, that's how all of this would have broken down, but that's how it didn't break down, and that's what I expected. That's what I always expected. You see, the WBC doesn't keep the same energy for Oscar Valdez that they had for Dillian Whyte, for example. The WBC was very Johnny on the spot to suspend him and rescind his status as their interim champion, even though his trial had not concluded, and that investigation,
Whereas Oscar's status as a champion was never rescinded.
never suspended, and it didn't take anywhere near as long to bring the situation to a conclusion. No, everything with Oscar was rather abrupt, whereas with Dillian, it was long, it was dragged out, and he faced penalty before adjudication was even reached.
This took less than a week.
Put simply, the WBC doesn't keep the same energy for all of the fighters that they rank and all of their champions, the same way that the fans don't keep the same energy for all of the fighters.
Well, y'all motherfuckers do the same thing.
And you deserve each other. Where IBF champions Sonny Edwards and Josh Taylor might be screaming for banment, harsher punishments, I don't see them express that energy towards Billy Joe Saunders or Tyson Fury or Kid Galahad.
All of those guys tested positive for banned substances.
The same way Oscar Valdez and Canelo Alvarez did. A few nuances aside, you want to pigeonhole the entire Mexican boxing community based on the actions of a few, when the same thing can be done to you. Based on Tyson Fury's and Billy Joe Saunders's and Kid Galahad's and even Dillian Whyte's situations to some degree.
Were you guys asking for lifetime bans for those guys?
Are you asking for them now? Because they're just as guilty. They found banned substances in those guys' systems the same way they just found a banned substance or a not-so-banned substance in Oscar Valdez's system. And if you actually take the time to look at those individuals' cases on a case-by-case basis to give them special consideration, well, newsflash.
What?
That's what the WBC just did.
None of yous keep the same energy.
The Mexican contingent currently backing Oscar Valdez does not keep the same energy for Oscar that they have for other fighters that test positive for banned substances, and the same is true in reverse. The UK contingent that is lambasting Oscar Valdez does not keep the same energy for him that they keep for their own fighters. Everybody's playing the same fucking game and complaining about it.
Then why don't you stop playing?
Now, if the reactions were unanimous, amongst every man, woman, and child that is a boxing fan, every manager, every trainer, every fighter, and every promoter, every network. If the reactions to all of these instances were unanimous, then the sport would be a cleaner sport, but therein lies the dilemma. Therein lies the problem. The reactions aren't unanimous. What is permissible for some is not permissible for one, or what is permissible for one is not permissible for some. The boxing world has always been divided when it comes to this issue, and it will continue to be divided.
Because you guys don't keep the same energy.
None of yous. You always side with the guy you've got the most in common with, and that's fine. But spare me the bleeding heart act.
Because I'm not buying it.
This is just another avenue of opportunity for your tribalism. You're all a bunch of fucking hypocrites, and you all deserve each other.
You're all guilty of the same fucking thing.
Lynch mobs for one guy, and defense attorneys for another. In other news, per tweet from Michael Benson, Eddie Hearn has confirmed that he will be bidding on the Terence Crawford versus Sean Portier purse bids to try and bring the fight to DAZN. If a deal doesn't get done and purse bids go ahead on September 14th. And
we didn't know until now if he was going to bid for sure.
Though it was widely speculated that he might, it was widely thought that he would. Eddie Hearn and Matchroom. Though at the same time, we know that Matchroom and DAZN aren't throwing big chunks of cash at just any old fight anymore. They're not in the process of attempting to make a splash in a new market. They've set some ground rules.
They are exercising a little bit more restraint.
And yet, this fight still remains a fight of some interest to the platform. And it would be pretty big, would be pretty major, if they actually were to place the winning bid and have these two fighters that fight on other sides of the street fight on their side of things.
Good way to stick at the top rank in the PBC.
In my previous video, we talked about what Bob Arum had to say about it and how he speculates that given the financial commitments the PBC has in association with the Canelo Alvarez fight, perhaps they ain't got it in the budget to finance this fight with Terence Crawford and Sean Porter, and that has left them rather open-minded, more open-minded than they usually are when it comes to one of their fighters, their star fighters, fighting on another platform, that perhaps the PBC would be willing to let Top Rank finance the fight since they've got all that other stuff to pay for.
Do you think they'll keep that same energy for Eddie?
Not really. When it comes to Eddie Hearn, Matchroom as a promotional outfit and DAZN as a platform, they are a common enemy to both Top Rank and the PBC.
And that's one of the few things they have in common.
Neither one of those two outfits are none too sweet on Mr. Eddie Hearn. And I feel like, the last thing either of them would want is to see one of those fighters.
I don't think they want that fight to land on DAZN.
I don't. There are a lot of hard feelings and a lot of big egos. And how would it make those two respective platforms look if in comes Eddie Hearn with his big old Matchroom wallet, big old DAZN platform, and he can deliver the fight fans the fight that the PBC and Top Rank have failed to deliver them thus far?
He'd show them up.
He would essentially be upstaging them. Kind of like how the people at Sky Sports and Boxer are attempting to upstage him by putting together that Shields versus Marshall fight. The fight
he didn't make.
The one that got away. That is the hierarchy of thought here, the school of thought, the logic behind it all. If Eddie Hearn can swoop in with that big old Matchroom wallet and make this fight happen, make it happen on DAZN, not only would he be upstaging them, but it would be beneficial to the fans as well, because if DAZN gets the fight, it's not a pay-per-view and it don't come with that hefty $80 price tag. That's if the fight goes to a purse bid and if Eddie Hearn places the winning bid. We're not there yet. There's still a chance that these two teams can reach a deal amongst themselves before September 14th gets here, before that purse bid rolls around. And even if it does, who says Sean Porter don't pull out of this thing depending on the circumstances, depending on the situation? It's his title shot to pursue, after all.
The moment he stops pursuing it, it's over.
And I'm not making any proclamations or predictions. I'm just telling you there's a lot of ways this could break down. So don't get too settled on any particular scenario.
Boxing is the theater of the unexpected, after all.
And there's plenty of room for plenty of things to happen. Finally, in light heavyweight news, former WBO super middleweight champion Gilberto Ramirez says, Dmitry and his team know that I'm available. People may say he is avoiding me by chasing the Canelo fight, Ramirez commented, but I hope he gets it. Everyone knows Canelo is the lottery ticket. At the moment, I can't hate on him, Bivol, for taking his shot. But if the fight doesn't happen, he and his team know I'm available, and there won't be any other fight or excuse to avoid me. I'm open to fighting any of the world champions in the light heavyweight division. I've always said I'm the best in the division, and there's no one I wouldn't fight for the title, assuming all the other variables align. So I get closer to my fight news, Ramirez remarked. I'll start my pre-camp to make sure I'm at my target weight before even entering training camp. It's not like my teenage years, so I need to make sure everything is precise and on track before camp.
This article's from last month.
August 9th, to be precise. This article may have been published before Canelo Alvarez made the decision to revisit the Caleb Plant fight, and this is a subject that we've broached before, but I've been seeing a lot of this, a lot of enthusiasm from Zurdo to perhaps go into a Dmitry Bivol fight, which is not in keeping with Eddie Hearn's plan for what is his light heavyweight champion. No, Dmitry Bivol may end up fighting John Ryder instead, and we've talked about that. We've talked about how I'd much rather see Dmitry Bivol versus Zurdo Ramirez than Dmitry Bivol versus John Ryder, though the John Ryder fight, it's a prelude to what's supposed to be a Joshua Buatsi showdown next year. Joshua Buatsi, who may fight one more time before this year is out, before going into that Dmitry Bivol fight. I've thought about this long and hard, and I asked myself, you know, the Ramirez fight really is the better fight. I mean, it's the fight that I'd rather see as a boxing fan. The Ramirez fight is a better fight than the Ryder fight, and a better fight than the Buatsi fight. You heard that right. Zurdo Ramirez is long overdue for a stiff test, a real challenge. Overall, this is a guy that's coming up on almost 50 fights. That's how long this guy's been around. And I like Ramirez versus Bivol a lot more than the aforementioned 2 fights. But looking at the situation, it's not Eddie Hearn's job to ensure that Zurdo Ramirez gets fights and gets opportunities. That's Golden Boy Promotions' job. I don't think Eddie Hearn is losing any sleep over how it is Zurdo Ramirez is holding up. Kind of like how the people at Golden Boy aren't losing any sleep over Devin Haney. They don't seem to place any emphasis or any priority in matching Devin Haney against their boy, Ryan Garcia. So why should Eddie Hearn make Zurdo Ramirez a priority?
That's what I think is going on here.
Don't misunderstand me. I'd rather see Bivol versus Ramirez instead of Bivol versus Ryder or Buatsi. I would. But when I look at this situation, Eddie Hearn's got to know that the Ramirez fight is actually the better fight, but he's not going to do Ramirez or Golden Boy Promotions any favors because Golden Boy Promotions isn't doing him any favors.
Or his fighters.
In which case, if what Zurdo Ramirez wants is a title shot, world title opportunity, he better take a number and get in line himself up for one.
What's stopping you?
Don't misunderstand me. I'm in no way, shape, or form against that fight. I'd rather see it, but I recognize that it's not like Golden Boy Promotions is doing any Matchroom fighters any favors, so why would Matchroom...
Why would it be any different from Matchroom?
They have their plans for Dmitry the same way that Golden Boy has their plans for Ryan Garcia. It is what it is.